Therapy Center.
Hi there. I wanted to schedule an appointment with physical therapy.
Okay, is it for a new patient?
Yeah.
What's the name?
All right, guys, welcome back to the home gym. As you can tell from my voice, I'm still sick. And yeah, so we're here about to hit some training up. Gonna do the second upper body session of this week. I'm not dying. I'm not in the hospital. I'm still going to work. I'm washing my hands a lot, covering my mouth when I cough, trying not to get people sick. It's just a little cold. I will survive. On that note, I did make a video on this topic previously. There'll be a link in the description box below. And on one of these corners, I'm not exactly sure which one it's going to be. So anyway, I'm doing my second upper body session, which for me is more of like a lower intensity session compared to my other two upper body sessions, the way that I kind of organize my programming. More or less, you could say that that's sort of like a daily undulating periodization style where the intensity and volume kind of I wouldn't say alternates, but varies from training session to training session. And I was thinking about this earlier that a lot of the programming lingo honestly makes things sound way more complicated than they are. And I think that's just kind of the nature of science and sciencey things is just like there's this disconnect between regular people and scientists kind of just use big words and make things sound really fancy when it's really just like, okay, I'm basically just changing up the volume and intensity from one session to a next within a training week. So basically from day to day, I am varying those things. Okay, novel idea. Anyway, I'm gonna end that rant about programming. We'll probably chat about programming some other time. I'm gonna hit this workout. Should be fun. I'm honestly pretty pooped and I do need to get to bed early because I've got an early shift in the emergency department tomorrow. I think I'm working 6 a.m., which means that I probably have to be up around 5, the latest. I still have got a fair bit to eat. We've got a lot to talk about, guys. We've got a lot to talk about. You saw that intro. We have to talk about that. We've got to talk about diet stuff because we haven't spoken about diet stuff at all this kind of series of videos. And that's important because I'm a fat boy right now, weighing in like 189, 190 in the mornings, which is the highest I've been in a while. And I'm competing 183 and I'm not really trying to make a cut for this meet. So we will have to address that later on. All right, finished up with that workout. I'm just going to eat some dinner. These are my macros that I'm working with. Here we go. So I've got about 60 protein, about 90 something carbs, and like 20 fat left. This will be my last day on these macros. I'm going to be kind of going back away from a bulk into more of a maintenance phase so I can kind of come back to a closer weight to the weight class. But we've got some goodies over here, some rice and some chicken that was cooked before, and some veggies. So I'm about to eat that, and I will catch you guys later. All right, so I just did something that I would not recommend doing, which is going home, trying to take a nap for 30 minutes, and then sleeping for 3 or more hours. That was not a good idea. And now we're running a little bit late. Story of my life. So yeah, I mean, honestly, with emergency medicine work, one of the most challenging parts is kind of just switching around your schedule. Earlier on this week, I was working shifts basically ending like 3 a.m. or so. And I kind of had to switch to a schedule where I start at 6 a.m. So my body obviously wasn't used to that. And I honestly didn't do that great of a job going to bed early last night. So I got like 5 hours of sleep, probably a little bit less than that. And I was pretty pooped today when I got home from work. Anyway, enough of the banter. We've got some squats to do. This is my second lower body session for the week. And yeah, so that means that the weights are going to be going up from last week. My hip has been feeling so-so. Definitely going to do a bit of warming up. I'm also going to do some breathing drills. If you remember from last week, I was kind of having this really weird feeling of having trouble breathing. So I'm going to give that a shot, and then we'll go from there. All right, so this is not going well at all. Yeah, this is going pretty terribly. I spent a long time warming up so that way my hip wouldn't cause me much trouble. The warm-ups, I definitely did way more than I normally do. I was feeling fair going into it. As the weight started getting heavier in the warm-ups, I noticed that when I used my kind of normal squatting technique, which is the low bar squat, but I would say on the more upright side, I noticed that that would cause a lot more discomfort in my hip. And so I sort of inadvertently ended up switching up my movement pattern, doing a much more kind of hips back approach and therefore more leaned over on the squat, but that's something I don't typically do. And switching that up with 85%, as you guys saw from those first two working sets, was a mistake. Yeah, the form was trash, was terrible. It was terrible, and I'm gonna hurt myself, to be honest with you. I like tweaked my back a little bit earlier this week on deadlifts. Honestly, didn't think much of it. It was just like a little bit after deadlifts. I was feeling fine, and now again, basically just doing that crap aggravated it a little bit. So I'm kind of walking around here like a grandpa, and I'm gonna drop the weight and see if I can finish this workout. I hope so. It's very frustrating, making a lot of sacrifices, not spending time with people who you care about, not going out with your friends so you could work out and train, and then stuff like this happens when you're 4 weeks out from a competition and you just need to do the best you can. Try and stay positive. It's not easy, but there is hope. So dropping the weight to 165 kilos was definitely the move. Yeah, I mean, it's just easier to focus on doing it the way I always do it, when the weight is lighter, and yeah, I mean, just was in the cards today. So I'm pretty happy that these are going all right. There's always the concern that you're going to drop the weight and then you're not going to be able to even work with that. And then it's like, what the hell do you do then? So I'm pretty satisfied with this. Just going to finish up this training session. I'm not going to record anymore. I'll catch up with you guys in a bit. All right, so we should probably have a little chat about what's been going on with me having all these pains that are interfering with my training. So, as you guys saw, I've decided to see a physical therapist. Now, I have a very, I would say, high threshold to seek help in this manner, mostly because I can manage a lot of this on my own. This time, it's a little bit different, mostly because with my elbows, which I didn't really address that much in this video, but basically with bench pressing, I just have really bad tendonitis, basically. But the problem is it's not just like tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis, or it's not just, biceps tendonitis. I actually have like multi-tendon involvement. And it just makes it excruciatingly painful, and it's affecting my form. And actually, the workout after the one you just saw, that squat session, was an upper body session, and it did not go so smoothly either. I just didn't film that. And then I've been dealing with this hip issue, which is interfering with my form, as you saw on that one. I'm just going to do the best that I can. It's a little bit bothersome because it is affecting day-to-day activities, things like getting dressed, getting in and out of a car. I'm still very much aware that I've got that pain. And so I just want to make sure I get these things addressed and work towards getting back to a better state of health and decreased pain. And, the thing is that pain is so complicated. A lot of times, there may be something that's incited it, but oftentimes there's a lot of psychological factors, sociological factors, hence the kind of bio-psycho-social model of pain. And if you guys are not familiar with this, there's a pretty good amount of information out there on the internet. The guys over at Barbell Medicine actually talk about this pretty frequently, and I think they do a pretty good job getting good info out there. One big factor for me that I'll be honest, guys, was a little bit hard to come to was the fact that maybe I'm dealing with these things that I haven't really dealt with before because I can't handle it. Yeah, maybe it's because I jumped into this basically powerlifting meet prep without a good enough base, right? When I last competed in powerlifting 4 years ago, I had a few years of kind of building up my work capacity, and I was desensitized to the training stimulus, and I definitely didn't go to the extremes of training that I used to, 3 or 4 years ago when I was still competing back in medical school. But I probably, in retrospect, those first 4 weeks of my training, I probably pushed it more than I can realistically handle. Mike Israetel talks about this topic of MRV, or maximal recoverable volume, and I think I pushed that limit, and hence I'm dealing with the sequela of that, all of these injuries, these pains that are interfering with my training, and some of them are interfering with my daily life. So, shame on me for not coming to this conclusion earlier, but I am happy to say that I've taken some time to be objective, and I've completely modified the last 4 weeks of this training leading into my powerlifting meet. Normally when you're going into a powerlifting meet, the last 4 weeks, for example, you're going to be doing lower volume because naturally you're going to be typically doing higher intensity. But I sort of cut it out even more, mostly on upper body stuff, really just not pushing it tremendously. and also just being aware of things that are aggravating factors, and realizing that I probably don't need that same degree of volume that I did in the past. I'm desensitized to that training stimulus. And, it's hard sometimes being your own coach. I really enjoy it, but sometimes it's hard to be objective with yourself and know when to cut back. Yeah. So anyway, that's all. Sorry for the kind of long, drawn out version of that. But anyway, guys, that's the end of this video. I'll be heading to the PT mañana, and we will see how things go. Yeah, I hope you guys stay tuned for the journey. The weights are definitely going to be getting heavier. My goal is to just stay healthy, make some progress, and go into this meet and have a good time. So like the video, subscribe, and there'll be another video next week. I'll see you guys later.